Today I'm making a special picture frame out of copper and reclaimed wood. I start by cutting in the rabbets and then cutting the board to the width that I want it to be. Next, I cut the 45-degree angles on the wood. You can use a miter box like this, but it's a little tricky if you can't clamp the wood down, as you can see here. If you have one, you can use a miter saw. Mine's awful. In fact, I got better cuts with the box. And here's your reminder to wear hearing protection. You don't want to be going, huh, for the rest of your life. As you can see, the glass fits into the frame, so mission accomplished. Now for the glue up. I know the frame isn't perfect, but seeing as I've only ever made a few frames, I'm happy with it. A clamp like this really comes in handy. Just make sure it's flat and everything's how you like it before you leave it for the glue to dry up. While I wait for the glue to dry, I begin working on the copper. I start by tracing out these little templates. Then I cut the pieces out with some snips. Doing this can be kind of tedious, but thankfully you get to watch the sped up version. After that, I drill out the holes. And yes, I have a drill press. And yes, I'm too lazy to go over and use it. I mean, the hand drill's right there. After that, I use my texturing hammer to give the roses some texture. This is another tedious process, but it really gives the petals some character. It's well worth doing. These petals will be on the outside of the rose, so I texture it more because you're going to see more of it. Because you'll only see the top edge of these ones, I only do the top edge of the petals. There's no need in adding extra work if no one's going to see it. Next, I'm cutting out a leaf. This will be a nice accent for the rose. I left those little flanges so I can easily attach the leaf to the rose stem. Next, I chisel in the main vein with a dull chisel. You don't want a sharp chisel because it will cut right through your copper. Next comes more texturing. This really gives the leaf its character. Without it, I think it's just a little bland and boring. Then I clean up that main vein with a little bit more chiseling. This piece of copper will eventually be the rose's stem. These edges are a little sharp, so I clean them up with a file. I'll use these nails to attach the copper squares to the frame, but they're a little bit too long, so I'm cutting them down to size. I should mention that I put a little bit of super glue on these to help hold them in better. I also pre-drilled all the holes so that the wood wouldn't split. Here I'm texturing some copper that'll serve as staples to hold the rose stem in later. Then I texture the rose stem too. After that's over with, I start putting the rose petals onto the stem. Now you may be asking, what is that tool and why are you using it for that? Well, clearly it is a vintage I don't know. Now this is probably the longest part of the process, but I'd say it's my favorite. It really does take a while though, so here's a little bit that isn't super sped up so you can see just how slow this really is. This is where everything comes together, and that rose finally starts looking like a rose. After that, I solder it in so those rose petals stay where they're supposed to be. Next, I move on to the leaf. Those flanges add a lot of surface area, and that really allows it to stick to the stem better. The heat from the torch added a little bit of color to that leaf. I think it's a nice touch. I added a little bit of super glue so that stem stays in there tight. After that, I hammer in little copper staples. I decided that they weren't quite long enough, so I went ahead and made a bigger one. And yes, I am fully aware that my hands are dirty. That's just what happens. Now, I typically like to harvest moss myself, but you can buy the stuff at the hobby store, which is pretty convenient if you don't live next to the woods. I like to add a natural element like moss or lichen to a piece like this, and it fits really well with the old weathered wood. Try not to glue yourself to the frame as you're doing this. Well, that's the completed build. Thank you for sticking around to the end. If you like this video, you'd probably like the other stuff I post too. So, if you want more, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for watching.